I try to reevaluate things every 3 or 4 months and make decisions about where to go in the future, and that's what this vlog is about. So, I had come to my realization about Instagram where I'd been posting too much, and so that was it's not one of the things I was setting out to try to figure out, but about every 3 months, it's good to look at kind of where you are once a quarter, I guess. Especially with I've been doing that with YouTube. I've started this channel in February, and just kind of watching what kind of videos people respond to and what you all like. Um, and I'm trying to balance, what's fun for me and what people find helpful. I enjoy doing the convention videos. I don't know how popular they are, but it's just I like making those little, kind of documenting the convention thing. But one of the things I'm re-evaluating just how I do is Patreon. I've mentioned before I have a hard time figuring out how I want to use Patreon, and I don't have very many. It's a good thing right now that I don't have very many patrons. One of the things I've decided to do is to make more of my work in progress photos, because I was putting them on Instagram and stuff. But I'm going to save those, I think, mostly for Patreon. The other thing is I have so many sketches and doodles and just things laying around that I've become acutely aware of since I'm moving, that I think one of my tiers, or a few of them, will be kind of like the sketch club thing, where if you're into like just sketches and progress things that really didn't go anywhere, um, I like maybe once a month send those out, and just it would declutter my studio first of all, especially since I'm kind of downsizing. Um, and if people enjoy those things, I don't know why I haven't been doing that the whole time. I try to offer prints. I've been doing that, but I think that's going to be the big shift there, where Patreon is going to be, if you enjoy my work, you want to see behind the scenes stuff and get some sketches and things and prints as I go along. I think that's what I should be doing all along. So, I've said before, my main talent is I just keep showing up, and then eventually I figure kind of things out. So that's kind of where I am with that. And just getting a better feel for what I want the YouTube channel to be and whatnot. The other thing is, and this is a harder one. This might, if you're setting up at conventions, this is something everybody on the other side of the table, the seated side of the artist alley table, you always have to like gauge your prices. And I initially, it's typical that an artist resists raising prices, just on commissions especially. Especially when you started. But my first increase was when people that were getting commissions told me I needed to charge more. When that happens, with your customers telling you to charge more, you should probably charge more. Um, but I had an interesting thing happen in New York where, um, with prints, and the person next to me said I was been selling prints for $10 a piece, and that's actually kind of cheap. Most 11 by 17 prints are 20, and I try to be conscious of undercutting people. I don't want to do that. I mean, if things are typically $20, um, you feel like there's a tendency for some people to say, oh, I can sell it cheaper. Um, Oddly enough, this particular show I wanted to try repricing things a bit, and I actually sold more. Again, I guess it's that if you as the creator say this is what this is worth, I mean that you kind of establish the worth. Well, you do establish what the price of the worth of the thing, but um, two, I was if it's accepted that a thing costs a certain amount, like $20, and you price lower than that, um, I think even subconsciously there is tendency to think, well, why isn't this, is this subpar? Feel like the price kind of says, oh, his prints are cheaper. They don't look cheaper, but there must be some reason why. Um, so that's kind of one of the things that I think, at least with prints, I'm going to go to the stand. What is basically the standard 11 by 17 is $20. Um, I should have been doing that all along. Commissions, I think I said I've got to kind of reevaluate. So I'm kind of reevaluating the price wise things, but also just the setup. I'm started to kind of walk around and see, well, okay, well, this person, they're doing this, and what other kind of setups seem to be working, and how do I want to present? Because I did notice too when I set up at the convention, because I didn't have my vertical stands, I had to tape prints along the front, and that actually worked really well because people come by and look at it. The downside is too, if you don't protect the prints on the front of the table, people will back into them. They'll get, I had some get ripped and torn. Just kind of write those off as you know that's just the cost of kind of advertising essentially. But if people are if there's lots of traffic, people might not be able to see it. But typically, with a decent flow of traffic, people will stop because they do notice the front of the table. So I'm actually thinking about getting maybe spending a little money on a table throw for shows, and maybe something in front. I know when the studio sets up, we all have the kind of the front that is taken up with studio logo. But when I set up by myself, just having some images on there. And with the banner, especially now that I'm working on getting William the Last in print and pushing that more online, I need to have a banner, I think, for that, in addition to, because you're trying to promote this book, but also promote yourself as a brand. One of the things that I was talking to some guys at the show in New York about was you need to have a banner that kind of take into account the ocean in which that banner is going to sit, right? You've got all these, it's an ocean of buoys, and you've got to make sure your buoy is attracting the ships, or at least worthy of the ships slowing down and looking. And it's easy to in isolation, because you design this. You're in your room, you're in your studio, you design your banner, and oh, this is a cool image. The thing is, if you design that image too dark, if it doesn't pop, it may be cool in isolation, but in the context of the whole convention, if it's not drawing attention with the color, the image, whatever, you have to take into consideration the context it's going to sit in. So I have found, and I didn't plan it, but just by dumb luck, that my Optimus Prime is orange background, red and blue Optimus. It actually stands out pretty well, just because of the orange. It's like blaze orange. There's a reason hunters use orange. Of course, if everybody uses orange, it ceases to. That's just too much. So it's like you also have to contrast. Is, I guess, the thing really. It's like if everybody started using orange, the one that's going to stand out is going to be the dark one, right? So again, it pays to walk around Artist Alley and see what the lay of the land is, what's working for people, how your banner is going to stand out and not disappear. I'm not saying you need to have like a bright orange thing with a huge, make it bigger, bigger, better, but how can you compete? Not necessarily with the whole. And again, wow, I pulled up I've been doing jujitsu, and today we did a bicep cutter. That's where that came from. But you have to worry, yeah, about the whole Artist Alley, but really this little space. Like when I set up within the 10 to 20 foot radius of line of sight, will this be ignored or not? So this is just some of the things to think about with banners. Some of the things I'm thinking about with trying to do my next banner to promote William the Last. So yeah, those are some of the things I've been reevaluating. This year was a good year to reevaluate just because conventions seem slower, not only for me, but for everybody that I talked to, really. Except New York. New York was great. Excuse me. The conventions as a whole, though, anyway, it's a good thing, especially when you've been setting up the same way for years. And I have. My setup is about 2 or 3 years old. So it's kind of where I am with that. And then, just, kind of re-evaluating where projects are. Pushing forward with William the Last. It's always good if you're, doing a webcomic, your own, create your own thing, to figure figure out where things are and where you want to go with it. I'm also considering, maybe it depends on what goes on next year. Next year, I really would like to do a Kickstarter, and because I've worked out a publishing deal. I think for next year, but because I worked out a publishing deal with William the Last, I'm not going to do another William the Last Kickstarter. But I want to do, I think, an art book, something. I'm kind of formulating. Still, I think I mentioned it before, but I'm formulating what kind of like sketches and things to put in it. I think that would be fun. It'd be nice to do something, have it out, and have something to take to conventions. So I guess the point of all this is just it's easy to get into a rut. It's easy to just say, "Oh, this works. Keep doing this." When I should be saying, "This works. How can I make it a little bit better?" Because the external environment doesn't stay the same. I mean, I have friends that did conventions 10 years ago with me and then showed back up at cons, and I'm like, and it made me realize the convention scene's completely different. I mean, the dynamics and everything, the industry is different than it was back then. Just a couple of things. Now I'm going to go pack some boxes because we start moving into the house tomorrow. So all of this is going to disappear. Very sad. We've been here for a long time, but be a good move. Subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube down here, and I'll have a couple little videos you can check out there. I'm doing some live drawing videos. I will try to schedule those further in advance so people can see and schedule them in. And till then, I will see you on the flip side.